Hello everyone and welcome back to Turkish Series Stars. It's a pleasure to have you here with us again. I hope your day is treating you kindly, because today we're diving into a love story that feels like it was written for the screen, yet breathes with the warmth of real life. We're talking about a romance that has enchanted fans and skeptics alike, a connection that seems too cinematic to be true and yet keeps proving itself in the quiet moments. Get ready to immerse yourself in the real-world dream love of Alina and Alp Navras. If this kind of heartfelt, behind-the-scenes storytelling is your thing, remember to subscribe so you don't miss any of the passionate tales we share here. Let's begin. Alina and Alp, two names that echo through Turkish television and cinema, have become much more than performers admired for their roles. Together, they gave life to a pairing that viewers still whisper about, a pairing people in Spanish-speaking countries nicknamed Eternal Love when they discovered Karasta. Their scenes were imbued with a chemistry that looked effortless and an intensity that felt lived in. Vulnerability and power danced together every time they shared the frame, and that dance sent their popularity beyond borders. People started to ask themselves, where does the script end, and where does the heart begin? On the set of Karavda, that question seemed to find its first answers. Alp, known for a presence that draws the eye and a calm charisma that settles into a room the way a familiar melody does, came into the project with an already strong career. His portrayal of Mal Swadra would become a benchmark, the kind of role that marks a before and after. But it was also the project that introduced him to the woman who would eventually become not just his co-star, but the quiet anchor of his private life. Alina, still considered young by some at the time, exhibited a disarming maturity that didn't announce itself loudly, but revealed itself in choices, in silences, in a simple look that could carry 5 meanings. Audiences responded to her talent and her luminous natural beauty with devotion. From the first days on set, the pull between them was undeniable. Every shared glance had a secret beneath it. Every touch on camera carried a softness you can't fake. Every whispered line came out like a truth said at midnight. Scenes that might otherwise seem routine suddenly felt like they were happening for the first time. And as these moments stacked up, viewers began to wonder, is this just professional excellence? Or are we witnessing, in real time, two hearts finding the same rhythm? Of course, in acting, professional spark is often the difference between a scene we forget and one we remember years later. But what followed after Sebda would reveal the real depth of what had been born in the bright lights of production and the quiet shadows between takes. While cameras rolled, they stayed disciplined, holding themselves to the work. Still, there's no denying that embodying such intense characters, breathing life into Nyen and the world around her, requires a trust that doesn't evaporate when the director says cut. Over shared coffees, late rehearsals, and small moments in dressing rooms, admiration for each other's craft began to grow into something personal. And then, when the last episode aired and the set was struck, the outside world expected the magic to vanish. But after Karasta, the supposed end became simply a new chapter. Though they didn't immediately reunite on an equally sweeping melodrama, their careers moved forward on parallel, equally ambitious tracks. Alp, stepping away from pure romance, surprised even longtime fans by transforming into a commanding historical figure, the kind of role that tests an actor's spine and voice. He proved he could be both lover and leader, and the industry took notice. Alina, meanwhile, curated projects that showcased her range, complex women with their own storms and sunlight, reminding everyone that she stands not in a shadow, but in a light of her own making. The professional distance didn't cool anything between them. In a twist that feels rare, the time spent forging individual paths seemed to reinforce their shared center. Each premiere they quietly attended for the other, every backstage hug, each public congratulations delivered without spectacle. These became their unmistakable language of support. And in a world where cameras lurk and social feeds reward performance, they chose something different, the steadiness of showing up. What makes their love feel dreamlike isn't perfection, it's presence. They understand the peculiar pressures of their world, the relentless schedule, the invasive curiosity, the constant hum of expectation. Instead of letting these things grind them down, they learn to navigate them as a team. You'll find them, here and there, at each other's milestones, holding space, celebrating wins, and also being a quiet anchor when the headlines miss the mark. They know that in this business, you need someone who understands why a line can haunt you for days, why a scene can leave you feeling raw, why silence after a performance sometimes means more than applause. Their social media presence reflects that choice. It isn't glossy to the point of emptiness, and it isn't an open book either. A photo from a seaside town splashed with late afternoon sun. A fleeting clip of a laugh shared over tea. A birthday post that says enough to be felt, but not so much that it gives everything away. These glimpses build a picture that feels warm and real, two people who prefer their memories to belong to them first. In a world where relationships can flicker out under scrutiny, their stability draws attention. The fire that first caught everyone's eyes has settled into a lamp they tend together. Time has handed them pressures, commitments, new roles, and the occasional rumor looking for oxygen. Still, they keep choosing the same thing, to face everything side by side. When they speak in interviews, there's a consistency that says more than 1,000 claims. Alp will often nod toward Alina's intelligence, the way she makes brave, sometimes quiet choices that redefine a character from the inside out. He talks about discipline, about the way she insists on truth in every scene. Alina, for her part, speaks about Alp's steadiness, the kind that doesn't need a spotlight, and about the support that holds you up without making a speech about it. Their fans have seen all this unfold, step by step. From the electricity of their first scenes to the calming assurance of their real-life connection, millions have found a kind of hope in their story. It's not the fairy tale where nothing goes wrong, it's the fairy tale that admits love is crafted, tended, and defended. Watching them, you begin to believe that a lasting bond doesn't mean the absence of storms, but the presence of a harbor. And if there's something we can take from Alina and Alp into our own lives, it's this: admiration matters. Seeing your partner's talent not as competition but as beauty changes everything. Communication matters too, the kind that isn't loud, the kind that's steady. Respect, the quiet kind that shows up in listening and in letting each other be exactly who you are. And finally, the balance between public and private life isn't about hiding, it's about protecting what's fragile and precious. Perseverance is not glamorous, but it's the thread that keeps two names tied together when the world keeps tugging. It's almost poetic that their story began in a fantasy made for television and turned into proof that reality can hold the same grace. Karasta gave them a stage, but their bond learned to exist without lines or lights. They remind us that even in the middle of attention and expectation, you can create a relationship that breathes, that grows, that laughs at the kitchen table after midnight. For those who love the details, it's hard not to remember how they disappeared into Mal Swadra and Nyen, lending flesh and heartbeat to characters that demanded courage. It was honest work, the kind that asks you to be brave, the kind that lets two people see the best and hardest things in each other and decide to stay anyway. Later, across new sets with different tones, they stayed in orbit. When Alp explored the edges of a historical epic, he wasn't just showcasing range, he was engaging with a legacy of storytelling that mirrors duty, resilience, and sacrifice. Alina, in turn, seemed to choose roles that caught the intricacies of love, grief, and hope, as if she were determined to show the many lives one heart can hold. They don't market their love like a product. If anything, they treat it like a home. Built over time, repaired when needed, filled with quiet and music, with windows open when the weather allows. They've shown that affection doesn't need a spotlight to glow. You see it in a hand rested on a shoulder, in a look that says "I'm here," in the way each mentions the other with tenderness even when the question doesn't demand it. Their authenticity disarms cynicism. It invites you to believe that behind the pretty pictures there are two people who actually talk, argue, apologize, grow. Of course, not every day is a tapestry. There are schedules that clash and roles that have to be prepared in solitude. There are weeks when they are more apart than together. But that's where their choices shine. Instead of letting distance harden them, they pass it back and forth, like a weight shared by two hands. They find time. They make time. And then, when time finally softens again, you find them in some quiet corner of the world, rebuilding routine, reminding themselves that love isn't just a crescendo, it's a rhythm. Fans often ask in comments and forums whether what they're seeing is the perfect example of real-life fairy tale romance. Maybe the better question is whether it's an example of the kind of love that lasts because it's both dreamy and grounded, because it remembers birthdays and also remembers to forgive. Watch their interviews closely and you'll notice how often they deflect praise toward the other. There's no scripted feel to it. It's just two people who know what they have. So, to pull the threads together, we traced how Alina and Alp first found their connection on the set that would become a touchstone, how the chemistry on Karasta prepared the soil for something real to grow. We looked at the pillars of what keeps them balanced, mutual support in every season of their careers, the carefully guarded private space where their bond deepens, and the stability that comes from choosing each other repeatedly. After the flare of early fascination, after the whirlwind of promotion and applause, a more enduring feeling remained. And perhaps that's why their story resonates so deeply. It offers an alternative to the idea that famous love must be chaotic and short-lived. Here, instead, is a romance that rejects spectacle while embracing sincerity. Here is proof that passion and peace can live in the same home, that two different stars can share a sky without one dimming the other. Thank you for staying with us through this journey into the world behind the scenes of Alina Boz and Alp Navras. We'd love to hear what you think. Do you see in them the emblem of a fairy tale made real? Is there something in particular about the way they protect and nurture their connection that inspires you? Share your thoughts in the comments, we read them all, and the conversation is half the fun. If you enjoyed this story, tap that like button to support the work we do here, and send this video to someone who needs a little reminder that love can be both cinematic and true. Most importantly, if you haven't yet, subscribe to Turkish Series Stars so you never miss what's next. Until the next video, take care and keep believing that the best stories don't end when the credits roll, they begin.